There is a man in your city right now who has not left his apartment in 4 days. Food delivered. Entertainment unlimited. Every need met without moving. He is warm. He is fed. He is completely biologically safe. And he is miserable. Your ancestors would not have survived a single week living the way you do. But here's the part nobody tells you. They wouldn't have wanted to. Something happened in the long dark before history, before language, before cities, before any word we'd recognize as civilization, that wired the human body to need effort the way it needs water. Not to tolerate effort, to crave it. And the story of how that happened is one of the strangest, most uncomfortable truths about what you actually are. For most of the 20th century, scientists and philosophers operated on a basic assumption about human nature. Given the choice between effort and rest, humans prefer rest. It seemed obvious. Every animal conserves energy when it can. Why would we be different? The economist John Maynard Keynes predicted in 1930 that by the early 21st century, technology would have advanced enough that people would work 15 hours a week. The rest of their time, freed from labor, freed from necessity, would be spent in leisure, in art, in pleasure, in the full flowering of the human spirit, finally unleashed from toil. He was right about the technology. He was catastrophically wrong about the humans. Because when the hours came, when streaming services and delivery apps and remote work gave people back chunks of their day no previous generation had ever had, the reports started coming in. Depression rates climbed. Anxiety climbed. A new condition entered clinical psychology's vocabulary: languishing. Not sadness exactly, not illness, the feeling of being functional but empty, present but not alive, going through the motions of a life that had somehow lost the thing that made it feel real. The psychologists studied it, the economists studied it, the philosophers wrote essays about it, and the answer was sitting in the fossil record the whole time, waiting for someone to ask the right question. Let's go back, far back. Not to ancient Greece or Rome, not to the Egyptian dynasties or the Mesopotamian cities, back to before any of that. Back to a time when the total human population on Earth was smaller than the crowd at a modern football stadium, around 300,000 years ago. The species that would become us was emerging in the grasslands and forests of Eastern Africa. Small bands, 20, maybe 30 people, moving across a landscape that was trying, consistently, to kill them. Predators that were faster, prey that was stronger, seasons that could turn lethal in weeks. In this world, the margin between survival and death was not wide. And in this world, laziness was not a personality flaw. It was a death sentence. But here's what most people don't understand about how natural selection actually works. It doesn't just eliminate bad traits. It builds preferences. It reaches inside the body and rewires what feels good. Running from a lion feels terrible, but arriving at water after a long search, that feels like something. Bringing food back to the camp, that feels like something. Solving the problem of how to get across the river when the bridge of stones is gone, that feels like something. Evolution didn't just punish laziness with death. It rewarded effort with a feeling that became, over hundreds of thousands of years, one of the most powerful drives in the human animal. The feeling that you did something, that you were useful, that the day you just lived through left the world slightly different than it found it. There is a neuroscientist named Kelly Lambert who has spent her career studying what she calls effort-driven rewards. Her central finding is this: the human brain's reward circuitry, the system that releases dopamine, the system that produces the feeling of satisfaction, was calibrated over millions of years to respond specifically to physical effort that produces a tangible result. Not entertainment, not passive consumption, not information, making something, moving something, building something, growing something. Lambert found that depression rates are significantly lower in cultures where people regularly work with their hands, where physical effort produces visible results, and significantly higher in cultures where most work is abstract, where you spend your day manipulating symbols on a screen and go home with nothing you can point to and say, "I made that." This is not nostalgia. This is neurobiology. The brain you are running right now is not a modern brain. It is a Paleolithic brain dropped into a world it was never designed for, and it is struggling. Now let's talk about what happened when an early human tried to be lazy, not failed to be productive, not made a bad decision, actively refused to contribute. In the band of 25, everyone knew. There was nowhere to hide, no way to claim you were busy, no performance review you could pass while actually doing nothing. The hunt required people, the foraging required people, the fire required tending, the children required watching, the sick required care. In a group this small, absence was visible instantly, and the group's response was, at first, not punishment. It was something more targeted. The shirker was simply not included, not fed from the collective store, not invited to the planning, not spoken to in the easy way people speak when they trust each other. Social exclusion in a band of 25 people is not an inconvenience. It is an emergency. The same neural pathways that process physical pain also process social rejection. This wasn't an accident of evolution. It was the mechanism. The body needed to feel social exclusion as pain, because in the Paleolithic world, social exclusion was as dangerous as a wound. You couldn't survive alone. You couldn't couldn't hunt alone. You couldn't defend yourself alone. You couldn't keep yourself warm in the dry season alone. The pain of being pushed to the edge of the group was the correction. It drove the excluded person back toward contribution, with the same urgency that thirst drives a person toward water. Laziness, in the ancient world, didn't require willpower to overcome. It required very little willpower at all, because the social environment made the cost of laziness immediate, visible, and physically felt. But the story doesn't end there, because the most sophisticated thing early humans did about laziness wasn't punishment, it was design. Christopher Boehm, the anthropologist who spent decades studying forager societies, found something that seems counterintuitive at first. In the groups he studied, the ones most similar to how our Paleolithic ancestors lived, there was almost no concept of work as separate from life. The hunt wasn't something you did instead of living, it was how you lived. The gathering wasn't labor that paid for leisure. It was the morning, the afternoon, the thing your hands and legs and eyes did while you talked with the people beside you and watched your children run between the trees. Boehm found that in these communities the question, "Will I be motivated to do this?" almost never arose, because the activity was woven into the fabric of being present. You moved because you were alive. You contributed because you were here. The motivation wasn't manufactured, it was structural. The band's survival required your effort. Your survival required the band. And the fire in the evening was the reward that made the whole loop feel like a life. This is what got lost. Not motivation, not discipline, not work ethic. The structure that made effort feel inevitable, feel natural, feel like the obvious expression of being a person who belongs to other people. We replaced that structure with offices, with clocks, with salaries, with performance metrics and quarterly targets, and career ladders. And then we were surprised when people found ways to avoid working the moment they were left unsupervised. This is not a moral failure. It is a structural one. The motivation system in your brain was built for a world where effort was visible, social, and immediately meaningful. Put that system into a cubicle under fluorescent light producing reports that will be read by no one, and the system does exactly what it was designed to do. It goes quiet. It waits. It looks for something real to attach itself to. There is research from the field of behavioral psychology on something called the progress principle. Teresa Amabile at Harvard spent years studying knowledge workers, people doing cognitive, creative, and administrative tasks, tracking their mood, motivation, and productivity day by day. Her central finding? The single most powerful driver of motivation across every kind of work was making progress on something that mattered. Not pay, not recognition, not perks. Progress. Small, visible, daily movement towards something with meaning. What Amabile described in the language of modern organizational psychology is exactly what the band around the fire had built into their lives by default. Every day produced tangible results. The food that was gathered was eaten that evening. The shelter that was built kept people dry that night. The fire that was tended kept the children alive until morning. The feedback loop was immediate. The meaning was undeniable. The contribution was visible to everyone who mattered. This is what made laziness difficult. The opposite of laziness wasn't discipline. It was a life in which doing something had immediate, visible, social consequences that you could taste and feel and share. Which brings us to the thing nobody wants to hear. The reason so many people in the modern world struggle with motivation, struggle to start, struggle to continue, struggle to care, is almost certainly not a personal failing. It is a design problem. The human motivation system was built for a world of tangible effort, immediate feedback, and deep social integration. We dropped it into a world of abstraction, delay, and isolation, and then blamed the people when the system misfired. The early humans didn't kill laziness through discipline. They didn't kill it through mantras or morning routines or cold plunges or any of the things we've built elaborate industries around to manufacture the motivation that used to be built into the fabric of daily life. They killed it by building a life in which the effort was the life, in which there was no separation between what you did and who you were to the people around you, in which every morning began with something real to do and every evening ended with evidence that you had done it. The beads drilled in the cave at Blombos took hours, maybe days. The vulture bone flute from the cave in Germany took patience that would make most modern people put the project down inside an afternoon. The ochre pigment ground and mixed and applied to walls by firelight, underground, in chambers so narrow you had to lie on your side to reach them. Nobody was forcing anyone to do those things. There was no boss, no deadline, no performance review. There was just the human need to do something difficult and complete it and show someone else. That impulse is still in you. You feel it when you finish something real. You feel it when you cook a meal from scratch instead of ordering it. When you fix something with your hands instead of replacing it. When you write something something, or build something, or grow something, or teach something, and watch another person receive it. The ancient brain lights up in exactly the way it was designed to light up, hundreds of thousands of years ago, in exactly those moments. That feeling is not a reward for productivity. It is the feeling of being the animal you actually are. The man in the apartment hasn't moved in 4 days. Everything is available to him. Nothing is required of him. And he is miserable, because nothing in his wiring was ever designed for this. His body is waiting for the hunt, for the problem that requires his specific body in a specific place, doing a specific thing that someone else depends on. The hunt will never come, but something like it can. Every time you do a difficult thing that produces something real, you are reaching back across 300,000 years and touching the same circuit that kept your ancestors alive, motivated, and profoundly, unambiguously present. The ancient humans didn't need to kill laziness. They built a world where laziness had nowhere to live. We built a world that gave it a spare room and a Netflix password. The question is what we do now that we know why.